Hello, everyone. I am here. Sorry, we're late tonight. I couldn't get the screen sharing function to work on here, so had a little problem with everything. So that's just going to curtail things just a bit. So if you're here, just type here in the chat box and let's see who's joining tonight. Sylvia, looks like you're on. Good to see you, Sylvia. Stacy, nice to have you. And great, Randy Part, awesome. Good to see you guys all here. Let's see if I can do something. I'm going to try something interesting and see if it works. While you guys are getting ready, I'm going to see if I can load this and pull up this software. And let's see what happens. Okay, just 1 second. Let's see the settings. We're going to talk about, well, we were going to talk about God's money tonight, but I got to get a screen share here to be able to do this. So let me see if I can get it done here. Just trying to figure out what I did for my hotkeys. There we go. So streaming. All right. Start streaming, stop streaming, recording. Display DOVH. Okay, let's try that. Let's see what happens. So D. Let's see. Well, you know what? I don't think I can get that to work. So let's segue a little bit. Let's talk about the process in the 21-day group. Is anybody participating in that group right now? Anybody that's doing the 21-day group? Just go ahead and say, just say, put a Y on there. And let's talk about using that, because I have something really deep I want to share with you, but I got to actually show it to you. And that's not happening right now. So let's talk about the 21-day group and what's happening with that using that mind map. So let's see here. Don't hear anything. Can you guys hear me? Yes, yes, yes. All right, good. All right, so there's been a lot of really powerful shifts that have taken place with that mind map. And I have noticed myself incredible things have happened by using it. Most predominantly is a sense of lightness. You're not, the blocks just vanish. And that's because we put those blocks there. We put that resistance there in our, in our wiring, our conscious stream. We put that resistance in there. And so when we take it out, we just free flow. And the other thing I wanted to tell you guys is what you can do to intensify that is after you release for the 3 times and you get rid of, the 1, 2, and the 3, you get the heart of the matter and you release on that because it's not, God didn't create it. And God knows nothing about it, doesn't exist, then step into the ABC break process of having it. So just basically, it's very simple. You just dealt with your mind. You know that it's lying to you, so say it is not it. And then could you allow for just this moment things to be exactly as they are? Could you allow it some more? Then go to your place of peace. Stay there for about 15 to 30 seconds just to allow the peace of God to just come in your space, that now space, and then go to having the one desire that you're continuously clearing those beliefs on. So the purpose of that process is just to take one desire and continuously destroy all of the obstructions that are in the way of that, and then use the ABC break process and step into having it. And while you're in the process of having it, the original ABC break process is when you turn up the music and you just bring up that sensation really loud and you feel really good and you're in your joy. Just allow yourself to just be totally in a loving space and just love having that desire. Just spend some time, 17 seconds or longer, loving and appreciating that desire. And for many people, they don't even have to use the ABC break process if you just delete a lot of these lies and opinions that are standing in the way. And that's what I've noticed. It's been just tremendous. So let's see who's out there. Let's see. I can't get in, Lovina. I'll let you in, Lovina. You're not constantly living in fear anymore, Matthew. That's good. That's right. And the lightness, that's correct, Stacy. And let's see what else we got here. And good to see you, Shantae, Vancito, Casey. It's good to have you guys all on board. I really wanted to get into something really profound, but I need a mind map to show you. So thank you, Vancito. I appreciate you as well. Let's just segue a bit, and I may have to do a pre-recorded version of this right here. I did a mind map. It's basically, if you guys want to see the matrix, everything is numbers. Numbers are everything. Numbers don't lie. And you got right here, I got Malachi 3:10, the whole tithing scripture, and I just ciphered all of this out. You know, it's one of these downloads that was coming to me, and God just really broke that down to me, and just it was mind-blowing, because I wanted to see what is the phenomenon. I know everything is electricity. I know it's electricity squared. It's current. You know, we call it currency when we get money. That's my own natural energy yield. So if your energy yield is money and your currency flows, then there's something that has to do with that. And the tithe is the only thing in the Bible. It's the way I got into the Bible. It's the way I started to learn to believe God, because God touched me through my finances first. And then I decided that, hey, this actually worked outside of my five senses. So it blew my mind. And, you know, that whole part where it says, prove me now, I stepped into that with faith and I activated that. And so after doing it for the past 10 years, I wanted deeper understanding. I wanted to look at, you know, how to actually read this Bible in a way that some of these the Old Testament, when you see all these names and you see so many of these names, they make no sense. But they actually do make sense if you look at it through the world of numbers. And so what I did is I broke everything down to a number scale system, and it's like a key. And then I could look at it in terms of how the numbers are going. So if you look at this flow, you can see the flow of life kind of flowing through, and I can look at it right through a key and see exactly what's shaken out. And I did Malachi 3:10, and I did it last night and today. It was just so cool. It was so amazing, because God gave me a revelation, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. And you know, I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm not here to tell you I'm right or anybody else is wrong. But when I get these downloads and I put them to the test, they're usually pretty fruitful. Am I right every single time without fail or exception? Of course not. Nobody is. But when God speaks, I definitely listen, and I really tune into it, and I give time for it. I surrender myself to it. And that's the power of transformation right there. And that's really all you have to do to make a transformation, is clear these beliefs. We'll just go back and talk about this. If you guys want to create something, just get that name the fear process in front of you and really look at it like this. It's so elegant and so simple, and it literally will blow your mind, because you'll realize how, you know, the word becomes the flesh. The word constructed the thought, and then the thought sits in your energetic field, and then you go ahead and you take it out, and so that you be returned to the zero. The whole process of life is returning to the zero, moving back to the infinite. Whenever we take thought for our life, we take something and make it finite. And you know what this is this actually extrapolated on that through the Malachi 3:10, and I'll get into that as soon as I'm able to. So Diana Campbell said, still not able to join. All right. Well, if you guys post, I want to join the group on this forum right here, I'll authorize everybody to join that, so you can do that process and watch the video. It's been changing a lot of lives. Dan, good to see you, my brother from another mother. You are my brother from another mother. And you know, I wanted to bring you up because this Malachi 3:10 has the what I saw is, when I see the code and I'm looking at the matrix through the scripture, the 33 comes up, you know, the spiritual, the master teacher. So I know that, and then I got me thinking more about you, Dan, because you're the 33. And anyway, that's just stuff that's going on. So I'll converse with you about that later. So Corey says, I felt so much more of the being of the desired result this past week. Yes, absolutely. So before you manifest anything, really, a sense of lightness and peace comes over you, and you really feel like you don't really have to have the desire anymore. You're just kind of like, I prefer it, but I'm not attached to it. And you see, when you're attached to something, it means you want it. And if you want it, then you're pushing it away. Want equals lack. And so we have all of these beliefs in the way, and they create wants. And what I ciphered in the Bible is the 12 disciples are the 12, the fruits of the Spirit. And one of them had to go originally. That was the Judas was want. That was one of the attitudes. And Judas is want. I want. It's fear. It's fear for your life. It's fear that I can't have, so I have to want. I have to step into trying to hold and hoard. And if you look at constriction in the body, anytime the body constricts and holds and hoards, you have something wrong with you. Everything has to free flow. It has to circulate. It has to allow. You have to just be the conduit for it, just flow. And that name the fear process really hits the mark. So I've been doing it every day. And Joachim, good to see you. This is so exciting. Really love it. Good. Well, I'm glad you love it. Even though I didn't get to show you what I really wanted to show you, I'm glad you're here. And exactly, that's totally what it feels like. That's right, Corey. Joshua, good to see you on here. Carrie, nice to see you. We'll get you on that group. And yeah, I know that I saw the angry face. I wanted to show you that stuff. But I promise you this. I will make the recording, and I will post it to the group probably by as early as tomorrow morning, maybe even sooner than that. And I'll get it out to you, because I was practicing it a few times, and it's mind-blowing when you can see the numbers, and you can see a whole nother world opens up inside of this. And maybe it's because I spend so much time in the midbrain and the monatomics or whatever, but I have so much of the non-thinking that I just can allow myself to kind of go off into different realms, and all of a sudden a whole new world opens up, especially if you look at the world of numbers. Anybody who's an accountant knows that if you look at a business, you can look at numbers and you can see the whole world of that business, kind of paint a picture to you. You can see exactly what's wrong with that business, where it's unhealthy, where it's really healthy, and that's a whole nother universe. And what's great about it is it doesn't lie. So if you look at like an accounting balance sheet, you can say, oh, well, look at these numbers. This is where everything's going south, and this is what's great. All of the other babble, you can have somebody telling you all day long, well, my business is going so great. We're growing and expanding. And you say, well, let me see the numbers. And then if you see the numbers, all the commentary is just kind of pushed off the table. And so that's what I had for a revelation with that scripture. And let's see who else is out there. Sabrina, good to see you. Sabrina is busy today, so glad you could make it on here. Colin works at 4 o'clock. And Diana Campbell, I missed everything. Will I get to see the recording? Of course you will. You'll get to see the recording. I'll put this recording up, and I'll also put up I had something in my mouth. I had to get it out of there. I cut my hair. I usually cut my own hair, actually. So I shave it up with a 1 clipper and then a 2 clipper, and I had some hair in my mouth. So that wasn't very nice, but it got in there. So Christy, good to see you. Let's do this. Why don't we just open up the floor? Tyree, nice to see you. John Ferrari, I'm so glad to see all you guys. Put something in the comments that you want me to talk about, and anything that is on your mind that you'd like to know. Just put a question in, and I'll go ahead and answer it. Viviana, I keep seeing 26. Well, 26 is an 8. What does that mean to you? 8 is infinity. It's the time loop. It's material wealth. Donald Trump's an 8. What does it mean to you? What does it mean in your world? Just comment below. All right. Hair looks great, brother. Thank you, Robert. I suggest starting phrases with I am and I have. Yeah, I have, right, for sure. Never say I want. You always say I have, or I like to say I'm believing for. But yes, I am and I have are good ways to do that. And you can even reverse speech it too. I prefer, if I'm going to do affirmations, I reverse speech them, and I do it that way. It takes all the resistance out, because the conscious mind thinks it's absolute nonsense. So since the conscious mind thinks it's absolute nonsense, its resistance goes way down to zero. But if you understand how reverse speech works, it's more accurate than forward speech. Reverse speech never lies. So let's go. Made it. Tony, good to see you, Tony. Cheyenne, let's see. Romika, the power of saving money, like the concept of tithing. Okay, so the power of saving money is very, very important. If you want to have money, then you need to have money. Nothing will repel money faster than not having any money. If you're down to your last, just think of it like this. Take money out of the equation and talk about a relationship. Somebody who's been alone for 30 years and then all of a sudden wants to get back into the dating world, it's going to be very hard, energetically speaking, because coming from lack. If you come from lack, but you notice if you get in a relationship, all of a sudden you're in love, doesn't it always seem like 5 other people just love you at the same time and you have all this choice to deal with? And that's because if you have, you get more. And if you don't have, you will continue to not have. So the principle is this: the richest man in Babylon is, it's the 3 tenths. The first tenth is holy money. That's God's money. That breaks the connection. And I'll talk about that in this Malachi and show you the energetic flow of what happens. And the second tenth, you should pay yourself. As above, so below. Even Robert Kiyosaki talked about this in his is one of his financial seminars that I had years ago. How, him and his wife, Kim, they always tithed. And they always paid themselves first, even though they had a lot of debts to pay. They did not rob God and they did not rob themselves. Very, very important. Because if you want to build up a nest egg, so at first it's like, hey, I'm setting aside an extra $20 or $200 a week for me. God gets the money, 10%, I get my money. And then what happens is that money starts to build up. And always in the back of your mind, you're always remembering, gosh, I have this storehouse. I have money. I have money. It changes the polarity so you feel you have money. And eventually, before you know it, I started that years ago after bankruptcy. I started with nothing, and then all of a sudden it was 80 grand laying around. Then it was a few $100,000. Then it was, all of a sudden, ridiculous. And I was like, that's a storehouse. God blesses the work of your hands, and the storehouse attracts more to itself. Very, very powerful. All right. So let's see who else put it in here. Meeting alignment, and also keep seeing the 888. There you go. 888 is Jesus if you transcribe it through I believe the Greek. So yeah, look that up. And how to deal with fear, the terror barrier. That's very good, Skip. The terror barrier is your ego's last-ditch effort to keep you stuck. The terror barrier will happen anytime that you are on the precipice of a breakthrough or you're pushing the boundary. Even if you start deciding to push the boundary, you see, the ego's cunning because it comes out of the, it comes out of the infinite, separates itself. It's a shadow. And it's fiction. It's Satan. It's the ego. And what it does is it goes through the 6 degrees of separation, through the who, what, when, where, why, and how, through the 5 senses, and even the extension of the 5 senses through the android meme, through the external hologram, through your chip body, your android meme body, the chemical body. All of your bodies are affected. You don't just live in a meat sack body. You also live on the internet, in your phone. All of your consciousness operates in all of those domains. So the terror barrier can happen to you at any point because it's all you. It's all you. And so what it is it's the mind that is offended because it's going to have to die. And what I mean by that is it dies to its old wisdom. This is what Quimby discovered, is that whenever he would heal somebody, they had to die to their old wisdom. In other words, they were under the spell of all of these beliefs. And as they stepped out of those beliefs, they were born again. It was a resurrection into a new body of knowledge. And so you can see that whenever something dies, it really gets scared. Yeah, if you were to consider your death, you'd be terrified right now, most likely, and so does the ego mind. So the ego mind, because it becomes terrified, throws everything at you, always through doubt, fear, can cause anger, can cause anything with it. It will go to any of its old tricks that it's gotten you to fall victim to before, but its main essence or fragrance is pure negativity. negativity will come at you in the form of something, a financial loss, somebody gets hurt, you smash your car, or you name it. It can come, it can happen. And when that happens, your natural tendency is to say, oh, you see, I knew I shouldn't have done that. What an idiot. I knew that was too good to be true. Who am I to think I could go out and do that? I'm just going to retreat right back. And then the ego has you exactly where it wanted you from the start. So you have to know that the minute you decide that you're going to create a death to the old mind, which is whenever you live in a reality box like this, whatever fits in that box, it belongs to that ego. So your current income, your current relationships, your current body, your health, everything that is yours right now belongs in that box. And whenever you decide to step out of that box, the moment of decision is the ego's watching. The ego says, oh, you're going to kill me. You're going to kill me. Well, guess what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and stop you. And they'll throw anything at you. And that's when you have to have a mentor, or you have to have the wisdom to know what's happening. And I still suggest getting a mentor or a teammate. I think the new consciousness right now is not so much about mentor protege, but it's more about teammate. Like one of the guys who reaches out to me for consulting calls me a teammate with a strategy. So really, if you look at all the successful sports, special operators, anybody that works in teams, business is a team sport. Teams are the way to go. So you have somebody in your corner that you say, listen, man, the terror barrier is coming at me. And then they are quick to know, hey, listen, this is what you do, man. You need to protect your vibration. Don't let it fall. You're going to be tempted. It's just a temptation. Temptation. The terror barrier is a temptation to quit. All right. So did that answer your question, Skip? I hope so. Keeps popping up everywhere. All right. So in Power versus Force, the author talks about outcome not mattering and detach from it, of course, because if it matters to you, it means I'm attached. And so you have to make it okay to fail to make it okay to succeed, because you have to come from non-resistance. You have to come from allowing. So forcing is attachment. I need to have force. Allowing and surrender is power. You see, my non-physical is my power. And so as I have an intention, and as I release all of the doubts, and as I take a divine action in the right vibrational space, then I'm able to use my real power, which is my non-physical, to do all the heavy lifting for me. And I just have to allow and receive and be grateful. And that's really all there is to it. So let's see, Sylvia, I've learned that about one. That's right. John Ferrari, I fall asleep quickly using I am sleeping. Good. So Randy, the Southern lady Edwine's video about spiritual laws was impressive. That's right. Edwine Gaines talks about it, very simple. And one of the things that she brought to my awareness years ago, and I did something about it, was I created a technique for forgiveness called Safe Touch to remove the repellent force in your life. It's so important, because if you're doing all the other processes right and it's not happening, it's usually because of hidden pockets of resentment, guilt, and shame. And when those hidden pockets are in your field, what they are is they're a call for punishment. And the way that we punish ourselves is we take away something. For instance, if this is my good, this is my money, let's see, it's water, it's flow. See that? Currency. And then all of a sudden I think I did something wrong. It's all a perception. I take that away from myself and I push it away. Or we push away our health, or we push away a relationship. And we have to be quick to forgive. And that's really a big thing. And Edwine really opened my eyes to that. And so that's why when I created the 3-2-1, I put that like a sandwich right in the middle, because it has to be right there as part of the process all the time, every day. If you're really smart, you'll do it every day, at least once. It only takes a few seconds, so maybe 30 seconds, just to clear that. We accumulate these. We accumulate them from other minds around us. You can be hanging out with somebody else who feels guilty, and all of a sudden you'll start feeling like a toad like 2 days later. And you'll be like, why do I feel like I'm such a bad person? It's not even your thought. It's not even your thought. It just came into your space. And then all of a sudden now it's with you. So you can see how the average person spends years and years having all of that accumulated. and then they're trying so hard, they're stepping into want. They want so badly for something, and it's really not going to happen that way. You burn yourself out. All right, so let's see. Diane says, does that mean if you currently don't have, you won't receive? Well, here's the thing. If you currently don't have, like, there's nothing you don't have. That's a lie, okay? There's nothing you don't have because everything comes from within. If you currently don't have, that's a report of your 5 senses, and you should take that into the name the fear process, because the truth of you is that the world is inside of you, and it's created from inside out based on your frequency and created in the divine marriage, which is allowing and then divine action. And so if you think you don't have something, like if you think you don't have money, well, that thought can be a deterrent to you stepping into the havingness of money. So get rid of that thought, and then realize that money is so abundant, so everywhere, because it's part of the omnipresent substance, because it's money, my own natural energy field, and omnipresence itself is full of energy. So that means there can never be a shortage of energy. There's no such thing as lack. It's a phantom. Lack is an illusion. And lack is an illusion of love too, because God, omnipresence, is love, and it only created itself. And so outside of itself, it can know nothing, including its opposite. And so if love is all there is, well, then why aren't you getting yours? It's because you're pushing it away, usually through a repellent force, or you have a bunch of beliefs sitting in your now that have, like castrated the process. I mean, legitimately, that's what I have to call it, because that divine action process is the male aspect of creation. So you have to remember that there's feminine and masculine in the duality. It's the yin and the yang. So we have to be open to receive, and then we have to create a divine action. And that's really all there is to it. So Liz says, how do we pay ourselves 10% exactly? Save it? It's called having a storehouse, Liz. So you put it somewhere where it doesn't, it's like a safe place, like a money market fund or a safe in your house, or even stick it under your pillow. I don't care what you do with it, but it'll be hard to stick, $500,000 under your pillow eventually. But you want to have some place where it's safe, because all that is designed for is, let's just say this is my storehouse and I have water. See, now I have water. You can't tell me I don't have water. I have water. So I can attract more and more and more because I have. Now, if this is in question and somebody else takes their hands and takes my cup of water and says, I may or may not give it back to you, now my vibration is all screwed up again, because I feel like I might not have water at some point. See, now I might fall into fear again. And the whole point of having a storehouse is it breaks, tithing up to God breaks the connection to the Babylonian system, all right? That breaks the Babylonian system of being a debt slave in that consciousness. And when you give yourself 10%, it puts your worth, I am worthy to receive, as an established fact in the sight of God, so God can bless you even more. If you don't bless you, God won't bless you either. I've discovered that. And many people, very smart, told me about this principle, including that book. I've heard it several times. First time I heard this was a guy who made millions of dollars owning, he had vending machines and storage facilities. He bought many of them. And he started telling me about how he lived by this 10-10-10 principle. And he was telling me about it like in my 20s. And I thought, yeah, it's great. Guess what? I never did it. I started to do it after I finally, 10 years later, but I was broke the whole time that I didn't do it. So I can tell you that. So not doing it won't work. So if you just listen to it, you don't do it, it'll do nothing for you. But if you actually do it, I can tell you what, it's magic. All right. So, all right, Joshua, yes, I can't wait to see you at the seminar too. You're going to love it. You're absolutely going to love it. And if you guys want to know more about that, just go to allowuniversity.com. And that's coming up in November. So let's see, Sylvia. So having a storehouse, is this a savings? Yes, your storehouse is your savings. It's to have. So I have. I'm never in lack. I have. I mean, you know what it feels like if you have, let's say, even just that extra month's rent sometimes for people that are not used to that extra month's rent, it just lightens that fear a whole lot, and it starts to attract more because you start to believe in having. And then when you all of a sudden you have a whole year's worth of rent, you're like, wow, I've got a whole year's worth of rent. I'm good. I can pay my bills for a whole year. And then eventually you have a whole lifetime worth of, I've got enough. And then guess what? It feels really, really good. Okay. But you didn't get there from day one. See, if you don't have the habits, habits determine your destiny. Your habits determine your destiny. You can't wish it and say, well, eventually when I have $1 million, I'll set aside, some money for me, because then it'll be worth it. I'll put aside a couple $100,000 and I'll be good. No, it doesn't work that way. That's like saying, eventually when this 30 pounds comes off, I'll go to the gym and it's going to feel good, because you know what? I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to say, wow, look at you. You're 30 pounds lighter. It doesn't work that way. You got to go to the gym and you got to face that thing head on. You got to say, it is what it is right now. I'm okay with it. I totally accept things as they are. I totally accept things as they are, but I'm also ready for improvement. I'm ready for more joy, more happiness. So I'm happy and ready for more. Always be happy and ready for more. Always accept everything. So Gilberto, what could be the reasons for feeling out of steam and burnt out, even if someone is getting good sleep, exercising, eating healthy? Yeah, Gilberto, in German New Medicine, Dr. Hammer talks about how the lost sheep. So if the sheep loses its flock, essentially if we go in a wrong direction, there's 5 constellation conflicts that can cause what they call chronic fatigue, which is when your endocrine system shuts you down, like adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue, etc. It's a feeling of displacement. First of all, like I feel displaced, feeling of powerlessness. And then it's a conflict over liquidity as well. That's in terms of like being able to support yourself. And then there's 2 other conflicts. I forgot what they are, but basically going in the wrong direction, as in if your mind has this perception that you're going in the wrong direction, usually you'll be plagued with a lot of fatigue, because it happens in the animal kingdom, it happens in us. So you can look that up through German New Medicine. So let's see. Okay, so Sylvia says, if it is it okay to touch or spend? No, I don't think you should spend your savings account unless something catastrophic comes up, because you're really supposed to keep that set aside for you. Why would you not be okay having a large storehouse of your own stacked up? I mean, what if you had a whole vault full of gold bars worth, $200 million, and, isn't that okay? It's for you. It's to have the consciousness, so it brings more to you, because the more you have, the easier it is to get more. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's why they say that. So you want to have the habits of being rich. See, the habit is what gets the blessing. So I have rich habits, so that draws richness unto me. All right. So Thomas says, my goal is to come to the workshop in November. Money is the only thing stopping me in this moment. Should my destroy the goal of money to break the workshop? Okay, so here's what we do. Money is stopping you. No, it's not money that's stopping you. Money is neutral. Let me correct this belief, okay? Money is, again, my own natural energy yield. Now, here's what you have to understand. God is omnipresent. God's the only presence, the only power, and the only mind. And outside of God exists nothing. So if God never knew anything about a money problem, and God never authorized a money problem, then it doesn't exist. That's right from the name, the fear process. So here's what I want you to understand, is that if you don't have money, it means that you are missing an idea. You don't know what you don't know. That's why you don't have what you don't have. So you don't have a money shortage. You have an idea that needs to surface. And so in order for you to demonstrate something, you have to have belief and you have to have faith. Okay, and then that transcribes into expectation. And so what are you going to do if you're void of these things? If you don't have belief, faith, and expectation, you need to manufacture it. And so how you manufacture a belief is we believe anything we do. Anything we do, we'll eventually believe. And if you need faith, then you have to take an action of faith, and that will create expectation. See, faith births expectation, and as a backdoor approach, it'll bring in belief. So you're going to have to use your faith. That's really all there is to it. And I can't give you an answer because it's you. You have to educate yourself, which means to draw out from within all of the riches inside of you, because that's where all your money comes from. It comes from inside of you. All right, so let's see. Cam says, sorry, I was in the wrong place. Tyree says, how do you allow love to fill the space without wanting to receive? Okay. Love already fills all the space, and that's the truth. So if you're saying, I feel broken, I feel disconnected, I feel a lack of love, it's because of a judgment sitting in your now. So the judgments are blocking the flow. So you're going to have to remove the judgment. Now, what is judgment? Judgment is resistance. Judgment is thought. Judgment is excess worry, analyzing, doubt, fear. And really what it is it's buying into the temptation that you have to take thought for your life. If you would totally let go and you would totally trust and just surrender, like all of the hurt comes from our perceptions in life. If you would just surrender and let go, the universe can bring you love in a New York minute. Okay, it's already here. And what I do is do the name the fear process on every idea that you have about why love isn't present right now, because those are all lies. 100% guaranteed. Every single one of them's lie, because omnipresence is love. So use that process. Renee, epic. All right, great. Stephen Gaspar, when something comes into your life, where to find the wisdom to know if it's an ego trap? Okay, here's the easiest thing you can do. If you are okay, anything that you can't let go of owns you. Let's put it that way. Anything that you can't let go of owns you. I want you to know that as a gut check, all right? And if you are attached to something to the point of fear, as in if I don't have it, I'm afraid, that's an addiction or a compulsion or an obsession that's unhealthy for you, because you're a divine being, and that's the nature, the true nature of you. So anything outside of that idea comes from the father of lies. And so you are already whole and complete within yourself, non-attached, don't ever have to be attached to anything, but yet can appreciate, allow, and accept and love everything. And if anything comes into that space to the contrary, suggesting otherwise, then just do a gut check and say, do I feel peace about it? And if you don't feel peace about it and stirs some anxiety, you might want to sit with that for a minute and just see if that's a temptation for you to give your power away. In other words, if you're standing in the center, if you're in the omnipresence itself, and something is compelling you to step into lack or want, you better check yourself. You know, I've had a lot of people go into relationships like that, where they feel they come into what's called the Delilah spell. And you remember Samson had his hair and it was his weakness, and Delilah cut it off because she tempted him. And Delilah's spell is anything in your life that tempts you to surrender your sight of God, like knowing that you're omnipresent, to become less than, to step into the ego and to hand over your power. And that's what Samson did. That's what the whole metaphor of the story was. So just make sure you don't have a Delilah spell, and it's easy because peace will be gone if you do. So minds mingling, you cannot avoid minds mingling. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to avoid minds mingling. And most of the people who are masters, who are ascended, who are on the spiritual path, or anybody that I know that's really calibrated, a lot of the people who are some of the richest people in the world, like these guys that are multi-billionaires, they live up on like high elevations, and they do so because it keeps them at a different level of thought stream. They avoid the mass mind, because mass consciousness is truly toxic. I myself like to prefer the country, and I like to, even if I had to be in the city, I would go out and recalibrate in nature. And so if you're surrounded by minds all the time, constantly polluting your environment and speaking evil all day long, you can't fool yourself into thinking it's not going to affect you. It will affect you. And that's why I call most corporate jobs, it's corporeal 5 senses, becoming a rat in the corporeal 5 senses, because you're surrounded by all of this blah, 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 blah. And it's the bucket and the crab, the crabs in the bucket. Wherever you try to get out, They reach up and they pull you right back into their garbage. And unfortunately, in the beginning, that's the hardest place because we all have to start there. So you have to clear that stuff yourself. All right, so let's see what else we got here. John Ferrari regarding tithing. I've tithed 4 times within the last 6 to 8 weeks, and so each time within days I received a monetary blessing well in excess of my tithe. Thank you, Matt. Hey, thank God, actually, because I'm just a messenger. So I am a minister, and my gospel is the prosperity gospel, because the prosperity gospel is what turned my heart to God. The prosperity gospel is how God got me. God got me through the finances, okay? Because when I was dying with Lyme disease, at first I didn't believe God could heal me, because I really thought that Lyme disease had power and it had some sort of life that could, steal life. And when I started to turn my heart to God and did the tithe, God prospered me out of that rut and brought me up into a palace, quite literally. And then I really believed, that God could heal me. And so that I started to turn more and more and more to understand what Scripture meant. And now, I've been called to the ministry. I love God, and that's really everything. So God has mysterious ways. And yeah, I'm glad that you said that, John, because that's the truth. So money flows to me freely and easily now. That's right, Frank. That's the truth right there. Under the pillow is a good idea, and a bed of money. Yeah, just don't tell us where you live, Romika, because then we'll know where all your money's at. So keep that a secret. Let's see, who else wrote here? So let's see. Yep, that's right. Okay, so German New Medicine, Casey Clegg, you just look it up on Google. Dr. Hamer, Hamer. Type in anything you want. It's a very, very precise understanding that is very accurate. So Vancito says they won't teach you this at Harvard. Of course they won't teach you this at Harvard, because an institution of minds created by minds doesn't know anything outside of the mind. And so they don't know anything of God outside of the mind. And even most religions, what they do is they project through the 5 senses a fiction in the sky, and they talk about it in past and future, and God is omnipresent. So how can you understand anything about God if you're looking in the past and future? You can't, because the present is the only point of power. It's the only point of existence. And so you really have to bring Scripture into the now space, and you have to see it right here, right now, as in you. It's within you. And then you can really capture the power of all this. So let's see. Pam says, what causes people to hate people that did nothing to them? The ego. Easy. Fear. Fear is ignorance, and fear, ignorance, and Satan are all synonymous. Hate is an extreme form of fear. Okay. Hate is ignorance. And so that's what does it. Let's see. Cameron says, great wisdom. Thank you. It's applied wisdom too. When I tell you guys things, it's really actually because it works, and I want you guys to have it, and it's worth it. So let's see. John says, I meant to thank you for bringing tithing to our attention. Absolutely. And this is the part about most of the self-help industry, and I have to be honest with my experience with it. To this time, I've read thousands of books, and I love to read books. I can speed read pretty quick and go through a lot of stuff, unless it's heavy and deep. And if it's David Wynn Miller stuff, I just can't even make time for all that right now. But I'm going to. But if it's easy 8th grade reading level, like most of the fiction stuff out there, I can read through those books in 20 minutes. And so few people put God in the mix. I don't understand. How can you create prosperity without putting the source of prosperity in the center, focal point? Because they're all operating from the mind, and they're teaching you things from the mind. And so that's why you have 90% of people failing. 95% of people, they say the self-help industry is $1 billion industry. It's 1 billion people sharing $1. And you see, until I got right with God, I never made any money. I never made any money. I went through bankruptcies twice, and it was a joke. So I have to put God in the mix, because that's the only thing that worked. Marisol says, I requested a prayer via PM. Thank you so much. God bless you. Yes, so what we do with the prayer is I do Ho'oponopono on that, and I do that not to exploit you. I don't want to put you in the public, because I'll replay these, and these are rebroadcasted, so I don't put your name out there. and tell everybody your problems, because I don't want to create more of your problems. And when you put stuff through the Ethernet, through the ether, it used to be the ether, and now they call it the inter, you're actually broadcasting that signal, and that's how you can create things by doing that. So I don't broadcast your problems to the world. So instead, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. And doing it that way brings a lot of transformation, and we just do it that way. So Dave says, do you do the box breathing and focus on your breath to become a channel and hear God? How much time does it take to stay in the state of not engaging in your thoughts? Well, here's the thing, Dave. In the beginning, well, the more fear you have, because fear equals thinking equals unconsciousness and resistance. And that all lines up with electrical flow. So the more thinking you have, the less you're going to be able to flow. So the box breath is a great hack to bring down those high beta brain waves where you're constantly like analyzing, and bring it down to the alpha. And when you're in alpha brain waves, then you're more suggestible, first of all, and you're getting closer to theta, where things can manifest instantly. And you start to do it enough and enough, and all of a sudden it's like learning any skill. Somebody that can do a backflip, for instance, if you can do a backflip, you didn't just do it the first time, you practiced a few times, and then all of a sudden you can just flip, 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 flip. That's how it is with being in the flow, is that you practice it, and you practice it, and you practice it, and the time span gets longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. And I started doing that with, channeling and flow, and I call it channeling. People say, well, that can be evil spirits. No, give me a break. I don't summon evil spirits and do rituals and seances. I'm talking about stilling the mind and being in the presence of the present itself. That is what I talk about when I'm saying channeling, and it's clear as day. It just, the flow comes, and it's a thought stream that's beyond the mind. That's the most I can describe it to you, because it's instant. It's instant action is what it is. And so you practice it more, and it becomes quicker and quicker. So, yep, that's right, John. God's gift to us is in the presence. It's his presence. It really is. So let's see. All right, so I'm caught up on the threads. So any more questions, just go ahead. Oh, no, I got more. So channeling the Holy Spirit. Yeah, truly, absolutely. 310 explains the 369. Malik 310 explained the 369. Malachi. You said Malachi. You spelled it that way. Okay, Malachi 310. It's really deep. When I get off with you guys here, what I'll do is I'll screencast a quick version of it, and I'll put it up in the forum for you guys, so you guys can look at that, the mathematical cipher that came to me. It's really interesting. It's really powerful. And there's probably a million ways to look at it, but this is what came to me in a state of flow. And I believe God wanted me to see that, because I asked, and I wanted to see it from that perspective. All right. So Chance says, Ho'oponopono, great practice. Yes, absolutely. Ho'oponopono is so powerful. In fact, one of the first things I would ever do immediately, if something catastrophic happens, if you go through like an emotional catastrophe, because everything is perception. Nothing is good or bad until we decide to make a judgment. And then if something appears really bad, our emotional, which is the energy and motion body, that vibrational current can just get tripped. And all of a sudden you can go off the chain, and then your thinking goes out the window, and everything goes down, because everything's frequency and vibration. So if your vibration just plummets, nothing good comes out of that space. I promise you that. And that's why we teach self-entrainment technique at my seminars, because that's a very powerful way to get it up. But if you vibrationally plummet, any action taken out of that state will only create of its own nature, of its own kind. So you can't work your way out of a rut. You literally can't. You have to raise frequency, and then all of a sudden you have a different quality of action and attraction. So what you have to do is immediately, if you Ho'oponopono, it can quickly change by removing the judgment that you made in the moment. You put that judgment in your space that created the emotional problem, okay? Because God doesn't know anything about a problem, and that's the whole premise of, omnipresence itself. And so, you see, when I got Lyme disease, that was a problem on one side of me, but on the other side, it made me who I am today. So it was the biggest blessing that ever happened to me. So we can't say what's a problem and what's not, because we're not supposed to judge. And so if we step into that and we go all haywire and our frequency drops, you don't even have to wait for your frequency to drop. Just keep using Ho'oponopono as you think of things. And what it does is it stops the judgments. All right, so the judgments actually, if you think of a funnel, like coming in, all this power flowing in through the top chakra, coming down and manifesting out into your hologram, what happens is you got this funnel coming in, you restrict the funnel down to like a garden hose with all these judgments. And then all of a sudden you try to create and you just don't have enough power, because there's too many things being siphoned off, just like a bank sheet. You got cash flow coming in, and then all of a sudden you have all these judgments. All these judgments, so you got to pay all those first, and all of a sudden you got nothing left. So that's why you have to break those. So how to do the box breathing? I'll show you. It's real simple. It's a 5, square. 5, 5, 5, and 5. And if you want to see the expert do it, just go watch Mark Divine, D-I-V-I-N-E, Mark Divine of SealFit do it, because he's the one that created that. So anyway, it's through the nose, 5 seconds. Hold at the top 5 seconds. Out through the nose 5 seconds. And hold at the bottom 5 seconds. And just keep repeating that for about 1 to 3 minutes, and you'll notice you'll feel just calm. You'll just start to release a lot of tension, and your brain waves will come down from high beta, which is what most thinking minds are constantly in, to lower in the alpha range. And then when you drop into alpha, you feel that sense of calm. The release comes in. You start to feel the relaxation. That's when you auto-program and you auto-suggest. Like one of the things I think Mark Divine says, looking good, feeling good, ought to be in Hollywood. Or you could just say, every day and every way, I'm getting better and better now. Every day and every way, I'm getting richer and richer now. Every day and every way, my life is getting more blessed and more blessed. And you can just start to put your affirmations into that lower brainwave where they're actually going to do something for you. All right, so you don't even want to talk when you plummet. Yes, that's right, because you can only do what you're in vibrational alignment with. So when you plummet down to a low vibration, what happens is everything seems to be dark, because that vibration attracts beliefs unto itself. It's all of these demons come onto you, okay? Those are just beliefs. They come onto you. And it's just like a radio station. Let's say we have a station channel like this going over here, and on this side we have hip hop, then we have R&B, then we have country, then we have gospel, all the way over here. Well, if I'm on the hip hop channel and I'm trying to get some gospel, it's not going to show up there. Okay, you're not on the right frequency. You have to change the bandwidth, and then it'll come in. Well, that's the same with beliefs. If you're over here and you have a certain frequency vibration, you attract like beliefs to that vibration. And so what happens is you think then that those are your thoughts. That's mistake number 1, is that you think that those are your thoughts. Mistake number 2 is you think that you're your mind. So all of a sudden you identify with that negative mind. Mistake number 3 is you don't decide to do something about it. You don't know what to do. So that is, hey, Marisol, tomorrow is David Windmiller's birthday. That's really cool. I was watching Mark Christopher, I think, a bunch of his videos the other day, and I love the technology. I think it's fantastic. I definitely recommend you guys should learn about it. I really do, because it's power, and you're gonna have to give it time. You're not gonna learn it in 5 minutes, I promise you. But it's very, very powerful. So John says admission to out of my ego gambling losses lowers my vibration to the center of the earth. I immediately start calling myself names. Yep. Well, yeah, that's a downward spiral. So that's your classic downward spiral. All right, so I think that's it for tonight. We are at 50 some minutes. I'm gonna wrap this up, and what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and I'll make this and I'll get it out for you guys so you guys can have fun with this. And in the meantime, do the processes and consider coming to the workshop if you really want to do real intensive training. I recommend everybody does it. I mean, your investment may look steep because it's not cheap to come to the workshop, but you don't want a cheap training. You want a life-changing training. So, definitely look at that, allowuniversity.com. Do the Fear 21-day process, and to do that, and just realize that, wisdom is the secret to solve any problem. And it was my honor my pleasure to share that wisdom with you. I always want to give you guys all the wisdom that's helped me, because the only way to actually learn is to teach. So when you guys acquire wisdom, just go out and teach it. And then your wisdom will, just like anything, you get money, you sow it up, and then God gives you more. Well, if you get wisdom from God, take God's wisdom and give it, and you'll get more. It's so simple. And people are afraid to run out of money because we fear it, because we're attached to it. And I'm going to talk about that in this transmission. And you're not going to run out of it. Okay? It's infinite. All right. Thank you, guys. God bless, and I'll see you next time on Wednesday night.